Welcome. I wanted to make a video just kind of focused on treating rusty but not rusted through metal. Um, there are several areas on this car or every car that are not easily accessible. Case in point, this box that's formed right here where the door hinges mount. This is enclosed on 3.5 sides, we'll call it. And I'll go around and show you what the other side looks like, but you can't easily get in there. I've determined that the metal is not rusted through. It's still very solid. It doesn't make sense to cut out the entire section and replace it, but I also wanted to treat the interior metal to slow down any rusting that has occurred. I mean, it's been over half a century. It's still solid, so it's probably not critical, but still, peace of mind, I wanted to just address it. And here's the inside of that same box. So you can see there's a few areas you can get to, but it's not possible to really get a tool in there, maybe just a drill wire brush, which is actually what I did, but you can't effectively clean the surface, and especially on the backside. So it's reachable, but not accessible. To treat those inner panels where I can't really get in there, what I did was I picked up some Corroseal. I've not used this before. I've used something I believe that's similar, an Eastwood Rust Converter. This seems like it does the same thing. It's got good reviews, but I am going to test it. I went ahead and used just a simple handheld wired brush, and I brushed this side and I wiped this side. This is old rusty metal from the torque box swap, just to kind of see how it does with the varying levels of treatment, you know, going from nothing to wiping it off and brushing it and wiping it. So just kind of get various levels. And what I'll probably do is do a heavier coat and a lighter coat, just to kind of get a feel for how it works out. It apparently comes sealed for my protection. So I just went ahead and put it in a generic spray bottle. It does say on the bottle to not thin it, and I can see why. Whereas the Eastwood stuff I've used before was, you know, kind of milky. This is a little thicker, so I'm hoping it sprays okay. Okay, well, maybe successfully, maybe unsuccessfully. I tried to get it thicker in the middle and thinner on the edges. Because it's so thick of a consistency, it's not spraying out as a mist as much as it is just kind of glopping out. So we will see how this goes. All right, we are a little over 2 hours. You can see in the reflection the spots that have since dried up, the spots that are still wet, and the spots that are still looks like it's still drying. The bottle says to take it for, don't overcoat for 24 hours, but it doesn't say how long to let it dry. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it set up. I'm going to let the time lapse record as long as the battery lasts. So that might not be that much longer. We'll see. Once it's all said and done tomorrow, what I'll probably do is take a scraper to it. And what I really want to know is, great, this takes care of the rust on the surface, but I mean, granted, this wasn't rusted through, but it had some pretty heavy scale on it. Kind of similar to what I'm seeing on the inside there. So I want to make sure that when I put this on pretty thickly, it's taking care of what's underneath and not just what you see. Okay, it is the morning. Let's get this out of here. Interesting. As you can see, there's some spots with the lighter at the edges didn't quite. You can still see some brown on there. I'm gonna take some time and clean that up. Here where it was very thick, almost feels like it's a little tacky still. Yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is, I gotta run to work, but later on I'm gonna clean this off and see kind of what the situation is underneath. Okay, this is a few days later. If you recall, I had a nice heavy coat of Corroseal on the inside, kind of what I was expecting to put on, and let it taper off just to see how it did on with thinner bits. It's kind of interesting. I took a screwdriver and just scraped away at a few different strategic points just to see what's going on. Where it's lighter, you could see it coated and pretty well, but obviously there's still rust underneath. I don't think you're ever going to get rid of that completely, especially where I can't get inside. Where I'm planning to do this inside here, I'm not going to be able to remove it completely, but it seems like it actually converted more of the rust. This is probably not a surprise, where it's heavier here and here, where the Corroseal is heavier, where I put more of it on. But a couple of things. Once you completely encapsulate it, I'm suspecting as soon as you're not getting water and oxygen to the metal anymore, the rust is going to stop. And also talking with Barry at Joe Daddy's Garage, I'll see if I can do a link to his channel. What we're looking at inside here represents over half a century of rust, and it's been left out in the elements. He does make a good point. We tend to obsess over getting everything rust-free. If it's gone 5 decades this long and it's still solid metal, and I don't plan to leave this car out in the rain like I'm sure they did, as was evidenced by all the leaves and pine needles in the cowl, I think we're going to be okay with the amount of treatment that we're going to get and how it's going to live from here on out. So I'm going to try to flip whatever bit in my brain is obsessed with this, and put a good coat of Corroseal in there, get as much out as I can, coat it with Corroseal, and move on with life, and move on to tackling the actual important stuff, like this firewall and cowl. All right, here's the plan. First, I got my workspace all cleaned up. I had all my tools spread out in parts, so make it so I can get in here and work. I'm not going to try to capture this on video, the cleaning up inside here. There's not enough room, and I don't know what you'd see anyway. But I've got an assortment of wire brushes. I'm going to do the best I can. There's not a lot of openings, but I've got a few different kinds. I'm going to hook those up to my drill, get as much of the rust out from in here mechanically, take my compressor and just blow out. There's, again, I won't be able to show you without light, just a lot of accumulation of rust particles and debris and everything else over the years. So mechanically get as much as I can out of there, and then go up in there with the Corroseal and give it a nice coating and see if I can, I don't know, take an old rag or something and spread it around as best I can. And I think that is all I'm going to do. We talked about earlier, the passenger side is in worse shape, probably because of that dripping down years and years ago. It's in worse shape, and it's mostly bad up here on the other side of this. As I go further down, it kind of looks better. So yeah, I'm not gonna try to resist the urge to stress about this. So I'll take care of this, then move over to the driver's side and do the same on the driver's side. Okay, I've got everything, save for that little switch there, everything off of the back of the dash and the firewall. I got the steering column out of there, all the way out of there. I'll show you in a second. And I won't be able to show you down in there very well. I might try again with the light. But I wire wheeled everything here and as far in as I could on both sides. And I'll go over there in a second and show you. But I'm going to take the time, since I have all the access, I'm gonna use Corroseal on the back of the dash and the inside, where the hood hinge retainers, I guess we'll call them, where the hood hinge is attached. There was only one spot. I didn't film it because of not a lot of space and not a lot of light, but I did the same thing and just removed on the other side. Well, here, I'll go show you. Okay, if you bear with me, I took the wire wheel and just went and knocked off all this blue paint and just went down to the original beige just to make sure there aren't any rust surprises here as well. Again, not a lot of room, forgive me, but no big surprises except, let's see if I can show you right here, just in between where this was sandwiched with the cowl on top of it. There's a little bit of rust through. We'll see how I deal with that. It is honestly minor. The entire flange is really solid, so I might just clean it up, do a little weld there just to close up that hole, and go from there. Once I separate the firewall from this kickboard, sideboard, whatever we're calling it, I'll get a better idea of if there's anything else crazy maybe under here. But I think we're pretty good to leave this as is. So one thing I do want to just point out really quickly, this looks like it's got, that comes right off with my glove, a fair amount of surface rust. Keep in mind, this metal had no protection on it, and it's not out in the elements. So this is literally just humidity in the air over half a century. The treatment that I'm going to do is far and away better than any of the treatment, which being none, better than the non-treatment that Ford did back in the day. So none of it is actually rusted apart. It's all structurally sound. I'm going to just leave it as is and add some of the Corroseal, and that will, you know, if it doesn't last another 50 years, I'd be shocked. Okay, as you maybe see in the time lapse, I covered all the inside of the dash in this Corroseal. Got the side toe boards, kick boards, sideboards. Got these things covered in Corroseal as well. From what I saw in my tests, like I applied liberally and just kind of let it do its thing, and got both here. And I did my best to get up inside of there. Every time I look from a different angle, like, oh, I missed a spot, try to feed more in. I think I'm gonna call it for now and see just kind of where we're at when this all sets up. From the test, it set up pretty well overnight, but really reached its hardness after over 24 hours. So we're gonna let it sit at least for a little bit, and maybe in the meantime, oh, sorry, my clock's going. Maybe in the meantime, start taking care of this firewall. The jury's still out on whether or not I like this approach. As you can see from my gloves, everywhere it touched, and my arm, it's turning black. So yeah, it's kind of a mess. Things are getting a little sticky, and I'll let you know if I regret doing this. Okay, it's been maybe an hour since I applied everything, and you can still see some spots where it pooled up down in there. As I saw in the test before, it's going to take well over overnight to fully harden, but I was concerned that, I mean, concerned is a strong word. I was thinking that it would, just with the streakiness, kind of not look great, even though it's going to be hidden. It actually laid out fairly flat on the areas where it's dried up. So there's still some spots, sorry, I'm not pointing, still some spots where I missed when I went around. So I'm gonna make sure I have gloves on, and especially on that panel over there. It's hard to see, but there's some spots on the top where I just straight up missed. So I'll go ahead and make sure I glove up and reapply to all these areas. I think the back of the dash is probably good. I don't think I need to redo that. Okay, trying to show you the end result here after, I guess the one application, we'll call it. So the areas that I could reach, these sideboards, turned out pretty well. There's some areas where I was kind of thin on the Corroseal, and you can tell it's still a little bit of rusty there. Kind of looking back in here, it looks ugly, if I'm quite honest. There's a lot of areas where, well, you can see it's still, you can still see a fair amount of rust there, but it's, I think it was coated with something else before. In fact, I know there was drippings before. So yeah, and if I kind of angle up in there, you can see everywhere I didn't reach. So what I'm going to do is, there's enough spots that I know I said earlier I'm going to not freak out about this and not worry about it, but I am going to reapply, just go over it once again and try to hit any of those spots that I missed. I'm here, I'm doing it, I might as well get it all. So that's going to be it for this. Let me know what you think. I'm still not convinced on the Corroseal. I think the Eastwood product that was sold out worked a little better for what I had done in the past. I had done some of the roof rails in the past, and that worked very well and was a consistency that spread out really nicely. So maybe that's why it's sold out and Corroseal isn't. But at any rate, yeah, next steps, we're pressing forward with the firewall. In fact, that's at this point in filming already out, and the new one is test fit in place, but we're going to cover that in the next video. All right, if you're still with me, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.